and good morning, Hoosier Nation, and welcome to another victorious edition of Hoosier Morning After. This is Hoosier Morning After Nebraska, part 2 of the season. Last night, your Indiana Hoosiers go on to beat Nebraska on the road for the first road win. Let's hear for that. 78-71. A very slugfest, sloppy, up and down type of game that we've seen this year. A game that we had to take care of, a game that we needed to get for the win and everything. But hey, we got that road win, we got that road Big Ten win under our belt, that monkey off our back, and let's move forward from that. Thanks for joining me on this crazy edition of Hoosier Morning After. Have been able to dodge this for the most part this season with just putting off the episodes to another day or something like that if I had a work or a shoot going on, and fortunately I got a busy week this week, so sorry for those of you that are listening on the podcast, different podcast platforms, and you hear the audio is a little different. Those of you that are watching on YouTube and can see from that, you notice yourself, you can see in different surroundings. Had to do this one from the Charlotte Motor Speedway Media Center. Found a little corner, little room to venture off into. That being said, you might hear little noises and clicks and everything as the rest of the shooting crew arrives and everything in the background for breakfast and everything. So I wanted to still get this show in and talk about this game. Excuse me, a game obviously that Indiana needed. Good to have, good to, like I said, get that game under our belt, but not a pretty one, as we're going to kind of see from this team moving forward. And we're going to have some slugfests. We're going to have some games that just have those sloppy moments like we saw last night. Just a physical, very typical Big Ten type of game. Typical, I hate to say it for the first time this season, typical Big Ten ref situation. A little aggravating at many times in this game for what they tried to do. But Indiana leads in the first half, going into halftime 45-39, up by 6, and then the second half goes on 33-32. So pretty much the second half just maintained the lead going through that half, and going up by 10 many times, fluctuated, but being able to just kind of control and hold on to that win was good to see from the team, despite the tough shooting at times and everything like that. Looking at a few of the numbers, stats in the first half, shooting 61% from the field. That was great to see. 45 in the second half, struggled a little bit, obviously, to get in the offense, and rounding out the game 54%. Shooting from three lacked a little bit in the first half, 1 for 7 for 14% for that on that game, and then led into the next game, next half, shooting 3 for 6 from the field, 50%. There we go, first little knock and introduction by someone checking what's going on in this room. Sorry for those that pop in. Yeah, shooting overall, shot selection, I thought was pretty good. Obviously, in the first half, did some good things getting it down to Trace Jackson-Davis. Got away from that in the second half. Nebraska really kind of, I don't know if it was a game plan or not, to be more physical and rough and tumble. It's kind of what we have seen from Hoiberg in his tenure so far at Nebraska. They are kind of slugfest. They are kind of, I hate to say dirty, because I don't know if that's a game plan to be dirty, to be aggressive. It was definitely seemed to be a game plan to try to play with Xavier Johnson's emotions. He's an emotional player that's out there in the world. Everyone knows that. Everyone can see that if they've watched any sort of tape on Indiana and Xavier Johnson in the past. He is an emotional guy, and I like him for that. As I've said before, I like that he kind of toes that razor's edge of being emotional and angry at times. But I feel like Nebraska game plan to that. Be it that tie-up that he had against his former player that in the replay didn't look like he tied him up at all. Chalk that down to more officials kind of anticipating a call and calling it before they actually see the call, which happens a lot, I hate to say. But that one was very questionable after you saw the replay where the Nebraska player didn't really touch the ball or tie him up for even a split second in that. And then went back in there to try to get the ball from him. As a past player, he obviously knows the fire that Xavier Johnson plays with. So seemed to be playing against him for that. Then we had later on a play where the tall, lanky guy on Nebraska, forgetting his name right now, as Xavier Johnson drove to the basket, that player fell down, got tangled in the feet, and watching that replay, he wraps his ankles. He definitely does wrap his ankles when he doesn't need to, and wraps those ankles around and wraps his legs around the ankle of Xavier Johnson, trying to trap him in. That's so dangerous. I remember years ago, the hook and hold. Hook and hold was such a big storyline. A couple of years ago in college basketball, it was protect the guys, protect their shoulders, protect them from injuries. What's going to be more injury than wrapping your legs around a guy's ankle as you're on the ground and rolling around? I mean, Xavier Johnson kind of pulls his leg out and does a little extra. He did a little extra on that. He did a little extra move there, faking him out like he was going to kick him. But to not have a call there, I don't know if that's the case because they didn't want to open the can of worms, and if they're going to call the Nebraska guy, they felt like they needed to call something on Xavier Johnson as well for that kind of kick fake. So they felt a no-call situation in that. But had Xavier not done that little flick at the end of it, that's got to be an easy call. Refs have got to protect players, got to protect their ankles, protect them from injury. And speaking of that, also to continue this rant, if you will, on the foul calls. Hope Trace Jackson Davis is doing better. He's tweeted out that he's good. He'll be ready to go on Thursday. But you got to call. I don't think they even called a foul on that one. Let me know in the comments of this if it was called a foul, but I don't remember. But when you hip check a guy like that midair and he falls down hard, you got to call something on that. While not fully malicious and wanting to cause an injury, it is obvious that you're using your body to push against another guy. It should be a foul in that situation. I mean, we all know those hard fouls going up for the basket maybe cost IU a win or two in losing Trey for a while in there. I still, on this day, will argue that a few of those games that we had, Syracuse or Wisconsin, might have turned into wins had we had Trey. So to see a play like that and a crucial player go down physical in such a physical play and not to see a call or situation to that was kind of scary. And what that did in the game was led to Trace Jackson Davis going out, and then IU kind of really struggled in those last 7 minutes without him on the field. And we had 7 turnovers in those last 7 minutes of the game, only one prior turnover in the second half for a total of 14 on the game. So we had 8 in the second half, 7 of those in the last 7 minutes. The guys looked very discombobulated at that point in the game, really struggling to find the offense and get going. And from the 4-minute mark on, really seemed like we were just trying to run the clock down and then didn't really get into any offense at all. That kind of transitions into the talk that I want to have about Rob. He obviously comes off a really tough game emotionally and confidence-wise, and then was hoping to see him bounce back to a degree in this game, and I didn't see that at all. You could see that the previous game's psychological damage that it had on him affected his confidence, and we've taken a step back in the quest to rebuild Rob Finnety's confidence. When he had the ball towards the end of the game, he looked like he didn't want to have the ball. Nebraska's defense on the ball kind of stifled him. He struggled to get into anything. He struggled to get around his defender. He didn't really get downhill much at all in this game. for IU, like he has shown he can do when he's got that fire. He just looked timid. He looked timid, and I don't want to say scared, because I hate to say scared in the sense of players playing and stuff, because I don't think players ever really played necessarily scared. But I will say timid and not confident at all in this game of his skills and what he can do. Doesn't score any points in this game. And just very out of the ordinary for him. Very hoping this is not a step back and we can really kind of step forward again. It's definitely 2 steps back. Let's take 3 steps forward going into Thursday, and let's try to build him up. Let's see what we get. We'll see what we get. Turning attention to more brighter spots going into this, the bench that struggled in the previous game at least were able to see some good, meaningful minutes from Jordan Geronimo, Trey Galloway, and even Tamar Bates. While he struggled a little bit in the minutes that he got 12 minutes in the first half, was 1 for 1 from the field, and struggled a little bit, I think, to find his mojo to get downhill or find things in rhythm. I still want to see us try to run more plays towards him and get him downhill, some good ball screens that he can come around off of. Beautiful assist from him in the open field. It shows little glimpses, obviously, what he can do for us. Running the break and finding Trace Jackson-Davis on a beautiful alley-oop there. Trey Galloway, some good minutes from him, 8 in the first half, 13 in the second half. Ended 3 for 3 from the field, so took some good shots, took some shots that he knew he could make. 3 for 5 from the free throw. Did have 4 turnovers, though. Was a little more careless with the ball in this game. But the big storyline in this game, as far as the bench players, is Jordan Geronimo. Getting out there and showing, again, the glimpses of what we all were seeing and talking about in the preseason. The little glimpses that I saw in the Bahamas that got me excited about the season for him. He's had some ups and downs with as far as how many minutes he's gotten in games and what he's been able to do with those. But just continues to be a guy that you'd want to argue about needing more minutes. And he got a lot in this game, 21. I think that may be, without digging too much here live and keeping you guys hanging here to dig down, but I think that's probably about the most minutes, at least in meaningful games, that we've seen him play. Ends up perfect from the field, 4 for 4, makes all the free throws that he has. He's just got a beautiful shot. He's able to elevate. He's able to just physically do amazing things. Is able to jump up and get rebounds over guys that don't jump and get rebounds and confuse the hell out of refs to the point where they don't think it's physically possible, so they call fouls and over the backs on that. That was a ridiculous call. Stuff we're going to see, and we have seen from Jordan Geronimo, where he gets called for fouls for just being more athletic than the guy that he's against. And that's going to be, hold on to your hats. With Big Ten refs, that's going to be a common thing that we're going to have to deal with Jordan Geronimo. But just a great player, being in the right position, playing physically, playing full tilt all he can in the game. Only has 1 turnover, has 8 rebounds, nearly gets a double-double, 10 points, 3 fouls. Again, that crazy foul, but just like his game overall. I like what he can bring. He posts up. He can make threes. While he didn't take one in this game, he's made ones in the past, but has that mid-range game that not many players have, and is not a shot that you want to have too many people take these days. It's not a high percentage shot. If you're going to be out there in college basketball, you at least want guys to take 2 or 3 more steps back and make it a 3-point shot, or take 2-3 more steps forward and make a layup. But he's able to hit those mid-range shots with beautiful form and beautiful elevation, and it's going to only open up his game So very excited for the future for him, for IU. It's going to be a cornerstone piece and going to be a major contributor in the next few years for this IU team. And we're going to see him playing in the pros. We're definitely going to see him playing in the pros with his physicality, his shot making ability, and everything like that. He's going to get out there and he's going to make a difference for someone in the future, and it's going to be exciting to see that. The struggle you have with playing him, and I've talked about this before, and getting him this many minutes, is that it's a trade-off, because if he's not getting the minutes, then that means that you've got Race Thompson in there. But if he is getting the minutes, then that means Race isn't in there. And those two guys are very integral to this team, and it's tough to argue who should have more minutes. I see both sides of the argument. That's been quite an argument on Twitter since this game, is a lot of people arguing which one of those guys should be playing more minutes. And I'm on your side. Whichever side you're arguing, I'm on your side. I agree with you. He should be getting more minutes, meaning Jordan, because he does impact the game. He is contributing offensively. He does pretty well on defense and everything with his length, and is good on as a rebounder. Flip side, Race Thompson, an amazing leader for this team, does the great stuff off the stat sheet that you like to see. And so I see the argument for him to get playing time. So it's tough to figure between those two guys how you trade off those minutes, how you distribute those minutes. And yeah, it's just great to have a backup. I mean, again, them being cornerstone players and in a position that leading into this season, we were kind of debating who's playing the four, if we're going to have a stretch four type of thing. What do we do with that? And to have two players that were arguing who should play more is great. And that means if one is lacking, the other one can pick up the slack, and we don't have to worry per se about that position. So the final thing I want to kind of talk about that's been pushed around a little bit too is Stewart and Miller Kopp. After my great prediction in the Iowa game, obviously, of Fran getting a T, I kind of was just feeling like Stewart or Bates were going to be the high scorers in this game. And while IU did run a few plays for Stewart in the second half to get an open look, I feel like we need to have more run for those guys. Because the more those guys can hit, and again, Stewart is averaging 40% plus, 45-ish, I think, on the year. The more those guys can hit, the more that opens up for our star player, Trayce Jackson-Davis. That's just common sense, commonly known. And too often it seems like Miller Kopp just sits on the side and waits for the ball, or and we're just not running action for them. I would love to see the coaching staff run a lot more action, a lot more plays to get them open shots, to see the offense and everything open up a lot more. We've seen it in, I wish I could say which game it was, where we were hitting a lot of threes. And that's when Trayce Jackson-Davis had a lot of assists, because he was able to get the ball, get doubled, kick it out, and one of those guys was open. I don't feel like we're running that play as much, and I want to see it more in the games from now on. Yeah, overall, I just think it was a slugfest. It was a game that we needed to get. It was a game we got. Guys need to get healthy now. Guys need to rest, because coming up, we've got a big game. Purdue on Thursday at home. It's going to be a tough one. After watching some of that Illinois-Purdue game, Purdue's a tough team, guys. It's going to be a tough team to play against. It's going to be a tough team to beat, even at home. And students, fans, guys that are there, guys that are in Indiana, around Bloomington, get there, cheer, be loud, because we need everyone there for this game. And I hope it's a competitive game. And we can lock down on defense again, and we can get things going. So, yeah, that'll do it on this remote edition of Hoosier Morning After. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hi to those listening on the different stream platforms. Again, sorry for the audio if it's a little different. Running a different setup, my mobile setup on this game. Special thanks, as always, to Bob Thompson for producing the music you hear on the show. We'll be back again, hopefully, on Friday morning. I'll be able to get a show together for you guys to react to the Purdue game. Until then, guys, go out there, have a wonderful day, and as always, go Hoosiers.